We are rocking it live here at True Hemp Science, the worldwide headquarters for True Hemp Science in Austin. And the room is packed to capacity. And I kind of mean that because it's a small room. Anyway, welcome to the Friday FARcast. And I'm going to be here for the next couple of hours, just kind of riffing and talking with people. We're going to bring Chris on here in a few. This is one of the rare kind of Fridays where I can actually check in with people that are connected to Chatarian. How about that? So I can actually go in and say hello and see how everybody's doing. You know, I also need to, we've got a few orders of business that I have to take care of. And maybe we can do this somehow midstream in a lot of ways. Let me do something here. Let me see what we have. There we go. Let's do that. And let's do that. And I apologize for having to kind of do this on the fly. But this is what happens when you have all these different balls kind of spinning in the air. And we do our best to make sure we don't drop any. Anyway, that's it for now. How is everybody? How are we doing? I feel like there's maybe too much headspace, but that's okay. We'll deal with that. It's 11:11, and I tell you what else I want to do before I start just riffing a bit here. I want to make sure that people over on Twitter know where we are, and also Facebook, because apparently I just got this message from Twitter or somebody on Twitter, and it was from Halo 10. So shout out Halo 10. YouTube is doing this annoying thing with both of your channels. The latest videos don't show up under the home or video tabs. Is there anywhere else I can watch the FARcast and Astro Live videos? They're not on Rumble 15 or your website. So the answer to that question is, I guess, moving forward, I'm going to have to double up and upload the shows to Rumble so that you can see them after the fact. Because, you know, I hate to be paranoid, but it does seem like I'm getting a bit of the runaround with YouTube. So let me put this on Twitter and put it on Facebook, and we'll get everything started. And thanks for being here. Let me put that link in. There we go. And there's that. And we do a quickie on Facebook. And that way we can reach maximum saturation, or theoretically. All right, one more little link, and then we will be up to speed. Then I can begin to rant. I'm looking at a picture of Frankenfetter. Could you imagine the conversation between him and Bush? I'm Bush Biden. You both the three of them. Why not? Let's go for the trifecta. I have multiple restrictions on my account. This is because you, oh my God. What is this? This is because this is on Facebook now. This is because you, here, let me show this to you. Here we go. Do you know how long this is from? So here we go. This is on Facebook. This is because you previously posted something that didn't follow our community standards. This post goes against our standards on adult sexual exploitation. So only you and the admins of 11th House with Robert Phoenix can see it. If your content goes against our community standards again, your account may be restricted or disabled. You can disagree with the decision if you think we got it wrong. So this is the woman who was the representative down in Santa Clarita, and she was caught doing basically bong hits and live sex acts. Well, not live, but in her home, right? So all this stuff got out, and she had to step down. This was all part of the media. This is one of the reasons why she had to step down from her seat as a congresswoman, right? A representative in Santa Clarita. So now all of a sudden from 2019, this is from 2019, right? This is 3 years ago, October 24th, 2019, 3 years ago. And now all of a sudden they're drumming it up. How about that? All right. Let's see, let's type this in here. Right. It's always fun to click on your social media portal and all of a sudden discover that you now have another restriction. I must be doing something right in order to garner this much attention. But I don't really think of myself as, I guess they got the whale. I guess they got Alex Jones. And now they're going after the sharks, right? They got Moby Dick, and now they're going after the great white sharks. Maybe I'm in that category. Or who knows, maybe I'm just a giant albacore tuna caught in a net. So let me get into Chataria and see how you guys are doing. And check in with you. And then we'll bring do a little intro, and then we'll bring Chris on. Meta, Michael, yes, you're here first. Lepetius, welcome. There's Beth Berry. Oh, look at that. The lovely and talented Joan S. She's right next to me. We might have a little segment with Joan today. Shirley Losciava, what's going on, Shirley? Checking in from Maryland. There he is, Maurice 100. Good to see you, Maurice. There's my man, Ryan. Good to see you, Ryan. What's going on, brother? Love a Scorpio is here. We love a Scorpio. We love a Scorpio. Good to see you. Let's see. There's my man, DJ MC, rocking the wrench. What's going on, brother Michael? Harriet Bowie. Greetings, Harriet. Susie Gemini, always a pleasure to see Susie Gemini's name pop up. Who else do we have? Stephanie Ramirez. Good to see you, Stephanie. Welcome. Let's see who else. Hey, it's the Leo Queen, Dawn Hart, in the house. Dawn, I know you've been trying to get me hooked up with a dog, and I've been kind of intentionally not looking at that. But don't give up. It might happen. Just saying. Let's see, who else do we have? East S. Is that right? East S. Hi, East S. Green heart back to you. What does the green heart mean? Does anybody know what the green heart means as a symbol?
Climate change.
Climate change.
Is it an echo heart? Because the yellow heart is friendship, right? Isn't that what the yellow heart is? And then the red heart is love, right? Isn't that how it works? What's the green heart? I guess it's an echo heart. Let's see, who else do we have? Doom's Dungeon. What happened to the other channel? I can't stream live for another couple of weeks because they found something scandalous that I talked about, apparently related to the election from 2021. And I can't even remember what I said. So good luck. Let's see, who else do we have? But this is the world we're living in now. The walls are getting closer and closer and closer. There's Bo. What's going on, Bo? Audio super choppy. We'll see how this plays out. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? You have to go to the live tab on YouTube to watch replays. I found out since the update. Oh, thanks, Love Scorpio. There's some good info right there. Let's see, who else do we have? Cece, there's Fran. Hi, Fran. And I think we're all, and Elizabeth. There she is. Wendy. Hi, Wendy. It was great chatting with you and texting with you last night. And we'll do a little tribute for Rachel here at the end of the show. So if you're not aware of the fact, Wendy lost one of her daughters, age 45, just recently. And, that's a big blow when a parent loses a child. It's, that's not how these things are supposed to work. Our kids are supposed to outlive us. So we'll have a little brief memorial here for Rachel at the in today's stream. Who else do we have here? JMP, what's going on? Jacqueline, speaking of Scorpio, a lot of Scorpio in the house. Jay's here. Hey, Emily Moyer. Where are you, Emily? You should be here. She should come on down. You're almost like a neighbor. Jan A, what's going on, Jan A? Kelly B, more Scorpio. Scorpio. And we have T-Girl. Got a good crowd today. All right. I think we're helloed up. I think we're greeted up. So what's the plan of action? Well, we're going to bring Chris on in a little bit, and we're going to talk hemp, and we're going to talk about his business. You can see some of the products here behind me, and there's a whole other part of the business off to my left where some of the magic happens, and we'll talk about what's going on in his world, some of the things he's working on, and kind of where we are with hemp. I had an interesting conversation with my friend Linda last night, and Linda was actually a guest on my show a long time ago, and she has a website called Hempanista. So she's been in the hemp world for a long time, and mostly through industrial hemp or hemp as it's related to construction. And she just came through a big, like, sort of hemp conference in San Francisco. And of all the people, Jane Fonda was at this conference, right? So Jane Fonda apparently has some interest in hemp. And one of the things that was talked about was how Texas is really protective of their three main industries. One is oil. Well, I guess you could combine two of them, oil, gas, but oil, gas, and the third was cotton. So even though it's been receptive to hemp, Texas is still kind of behind these other states when it comes to being able to use hemp, make it into industrial products, and maybe we'll get some more insight on that from Chris and see where Texas is and some of these other states are when it comes. I'm a big believer, not just of the product as a medicinal that we could use to make our lives better, but we could have an entirely new economy based on hemp. I mean, just go back and look at what happened during World War II when they decided to make hemp okay again. It's like, oh yeah, we'll pay you to grow hemp, because they were using hemp for the creation and production of materials for the war. And as soon as the war was over, they demonized hemp again. So for a brief period of time, it was the wonder plant. And I still think it could be the wonder plant. And I think we're only scratching the surface with what we can do with hemp. And that's part of this whole idea of, well, there's one version or one model of the reset, right? It's like whatever is sanctioned by Davos and Klaus Schwab. And, you know, I've been following this stuff for quite a long time. And nowhere in any of those discussions or dialogue with any of those people do they talk about hemp. They never talk about hemp. It's always about net carbon zero, cricket milkshakes, cockroach milk, fake meat, right? This is what they're talking about. They never talk about hemp. They've never talked about hemp as a renewable resource and everything that we can do with hemp. I mean, literally, if we really were very conscious and focused and aware, we could create an entirely new economy. Everybody can grow it. I mean, that's the other thing. People can be incentivized just like they were during World War II. So now that we have the fiat money game coming to an end, well, they have a green economy set up for us, but it's not the right green economy. So maybe when we bring Chris on, we can talk a little bit more about that. So it is 11/11/22, kind of an auspicious day. And maybe we can get some deals going here today.
Yeah.
Like Chris says, yeah. So maybe we can fire something up.
100%.
Yeah, so we'll do a little bit of that. We'll play a little 11/11 deal day here. And there's, where do we go? We've got an election or many elections that still have not been settled, of course, right? Did we think that there would be anything different about that? Did we think that we would have just and fair and true elections based on whatever happened in 2020. Well, I do have a really good story for you. So I spent about 45 minutes talking to my friend Jeanette, whom I've had on the show, by the way. And so what happened with Jeanette is, here, let me see if I can show you guys the story just to get you, because some of you may not be familiar with this. Let me see if I can find the story. Let's do this. Let's see. All right. CNN ran this huge story. I could go New York Times, I could go PBS, I could go Texas Tribune. Why don't we go to NPR.org? Hopefully there won't be a paywall here. I mean, we fucking pay for it. We pay for NPR, so there shouldn't be a paywall. All right, so let me just bring you up to speed here. So here in Gillespie County, my friend Jeanette found some irregularities during, oh, it's Dan Cass. Related to Danny? Oh, interesting. Probably not. Anyway, my friend Jeanette found some irregularities that took place during this election that we had, where we actually put this measure on the ballot to remove the fluoride from the water in the city of Fredericksburg. So, you know, the election happened, we lost, but there were some very weird incongruities. There were about 400 ballots that were unsigned. There were about 33 ballots that showed up with one count and then didn't show up with the recount. But more than that, it was the attitude of the people that were running the election. So they were absolutely 100% adversarial. And there were 3 times. Now, again, I've told this story because in Texas, you can do what's called electioneering, meaning that if you're outside of a 100-foot zone from the entrance to the polling place to that 100-foot kind of invisible fence, you can talk to people. You can tell them about the issue. You can educate them. You can tell them where it is on the ballot, which side of the paper it's on, right? You are allowed to do that here in the state of Texas. So Jeanette and our crew who were down there doing this during early voting, they had the police called on them 3 times. If you've seen Jeanette, she's been on the show. I mean, she's one of the nicest, kindest, sweetest people you'll ever run across. Like, this is a person that does not have a mean bone in their body. Trust me, because I wanted to play dirty a little bit with the election, and she kept pushing back on me. No, Robert, no, we have to do this. It wasn't like I wanted to do anything, you know, underhanded, but I wanted to go, you know, straight for the jugular with these dentists. And she was pushing back on that. So even in that process, she was trying to take this higher moral ground, right? So she had the cops called on her 3 times. Now, this is just in the electioneering part. When it came to the actual poll watching, what happened was that the election judge, who, by the way, I have no problem saying his name, he's a public figure. His name is Terry Hamilton. Terry made it incredibly difficult for Jeanette and her team to be able to actually watch what was going on with the ballot counting. And this happened not once, but twice, right? So there was an adversarial relationship that was going on between the election officials that were being employed by Gillespie County, Jeanette, and her poll watchers. So this story came out. A Texas county's election administrators all resigned, leaving the state to step in. And the Texas County elections administrator and her 2 deputies have resigned, with at least one citing threats fueled by misinformation, as former President Donald Trump and his supporters continue to spread baseless claims about the 2020 election. You see how they did that? You see how they spun that? They basically took whatever was going on with 2020 and Trump and bundled it up in that lead paragraph, and they're connecting what was happening in Gillespie County to the same thing that happened on January 6th. And whatever happened on January 6th, I can tell you it couldn't be further from the truth. This is an absolute and utter lie. And by the way, your tax dollars are paying for this. National Public Radio, Of course, they get endowments from the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Gates Foundation, but they get it also from the John and Jane Doe Foundation. That means you. The threats against election officials and my election staff, dangerous misinformation, lack of full-time personnel for the election office, unpaid compensation, and absurd legislation have completely changed the job I initially accepted. Now, former Gillespie County elections administrator Anissa Herrera reportedly wrote in a resignation letter dated August 2nd. So she bailed out. She bailed out just months before this election. She and her team wanted to leave the entire county and the city in a lurch. Okay. Not only that, but I was told this today by Jeanette, they destroyed all their records, which means that they really didn't know what to do. So not only did they quit, they basically said, we're going to make it impossible for you to pick up the thread and run this election. Now, here's the deal. Threats against election officials and my election staff. There was never one police report filed. There was never one report with the county sheriff's filed. There's nothing on record. When Daniel Jones, who is the city attorney, soon to be the county judge in Gillespie County, when he was contacted, he said, I'd received no notice. I had received no complaint, no formal complaint. So nowhere in this story is there any kind of chain of custody that says somebody did something. So really, this is all coming out of the mouth of Anissa Herrera and Terry Hamilton, who is the other person that was involved here. She added, the life commitment I have given to this job is unsustainable. The letter was obtained by VoteBeat through a public records request. The Texas Secretary of State's office provided a few more details about the threat, which Herrera first revealed to the local Fredericksburg Standard Radio Post. As far as I know, nobody related to Jeanette and her group threatened anybody. And if you knew these people are what they would call, for lack of a better term, God-fearing Christians. Okay, they're not gonna go out of their way to besmirch or slander somebody else. They're not going to go out of their way to play dirty and threatens. I can tell you this. I know these people. I've spent time with these people. I ran for city council. I shook their hands. I hugged them. I know who these people are. They don't do that. This is not what they're made of. So number one, this is borderline slanderous, libelous, and it's bearing false witness. Now, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. I really don't know what they're going to do and how they're going to hold an election in November. But they're going to have to do a lot of scrambling, said Joyce LeBombard, president of the League of Women Voters of Texas. Well, let me tell you what happened. It was the smoothest running election process they've had. Everybody was cooperative. Everybody. They introduced computers. Of course, they're going to introduce computers. And there were glitches, just like there were glitches all over the place across the country. But here's the difference. The people that were there who were working on the election judge side, inside or the precinct judge side, and the presiding election judge, they were all cooperative. Stand wherever you want, right? You can stand here, you can stand there, you can look over our shoulders, right? It was a completely different atmosphere. Everybody was cooperative. There was no adversarial tone. And they did all of this within the span of 3 months. So what happened? They shut everything down and they did it out of spite. Number two, they burned the records so that they couldn't figure out how to do things. And then number three, this is my opinion, that they bore false witness against a group of people who all they wanted to do was have a fair election. That's it, right? And everything that they had set out to do to make this process infinitely more difficult, take the role, the position of being a victim, it all backfired. It all backfired. It was one of the smoothest running elections. So what does that say? It says, number one, people are way more capable. Like, it's like we've gotten used to this whole idea of learned helplessness, and it goes along with the religion of victimization. And this is exactly what we saw. It's the cult of victimization. And it's like, well, good luck. Good luck. You made our lives a living hell. No, people were just trying to do their municipal duty, right? The thing that this country, whether you believe in it or not, whether you believe in the voting process or not, this is an essential part of it. You have to have a witness to these things. If you don't have a witness to the actual events, you can see what's going on in Arizona right now, where they just shut down the voting center. The voting center shut down in the middle of the night. And by the way, this was going on back in 2018. I can tell you that. Or it was 2019. This was going on. And I'm not going to get into the details, but they would shut down the vote count. Somebody would show up and they'd back their truck in, and they'd be there for a while, then they'd leave, and then they'd come back again. But, for all intents and purposes, that's illegal. But you cannot do that. There is a process of checks and balances here. So the good news is that Jeanette and her team and her crew were able to go out during this past election and do what they were able to do. And not only that, but it was met with the spirit of cooperation. It's like, yeah, we want you to be here. We want you to be here because this is part of the process. You're a part of the process. We're part of the process. This voting is part of the process. And do you think that they're going to run? And this is a true story. They sent CNN down to one of the polling centers. CNN sent a crew there, and what CNN was hoping to do was to find this operation in chaos. Right? They were hoping that they would find people arguing and in some form of conflict with one another. Guess what? They didn't find it. They looked around, they poked around, they saw everything was happening. There was no beef. Nobody was complaining that their voice wasn't being heard or whatever, right? What did CNN do? They packed up and left. They're not going to do a story about how successful Jeanette and Gillespie County and Fredericksburg was with 3 months worth of preparation, with a spirit of cooperation versus an adversarial relationship. Like, they're not going to print that story. So this is how the media works. What we get is, barely a scant scintilla of the actual story or news. And so what we have, I could go through and I could type in election results, Gillespie County, Anissa Herrera, Terry Hamilton, and there'd be a whole spate of stories. The Houston Chronicle did a massive story on this, and Terry Hamilton's quoted, and Anissa Herrera's quoted, and then they followed up with about 6 paragraphs of Beto, and Beto was actually in Fredericksburg doing some campaigning, right? And then of course you had this other group, kind of across the street from where Beto was. They're out there, doing their own thing. Hey, look, it's America. You can do it. You can burn a fucking city and you can tear a statue down, so you can be across the street from where Beto is and have your own point of view, right? I mean, theoretically, that's how the game works. That's what happened with that story. It must have been at least a 3,500 word story. And it starts off with this election thing. It goes into January 6th. It goes into Donald Trump, and then it goes into Beto. And what happened? Beto lost. He lost, and we had a successful, fair, cooperative, harmonious electoral process. And you're not going to hear about it. The Houston Chronicle will not do a follow-up story. UPI, which was really contracted to do that story, put it out on the wire services, they're not going to do it. They're going to leave it alone. It's like, oh, okay. It doesn't conform to the narrative. And the narrative is that America is a place that's filled with nasty and vindictive and racist and fascist and transphobic and homophobic and racist people. And when that story doesn't show up, guess what? They're not interested. They're not interested in reporting what actually happened. So I'm here to give you a little bit of that insight, and I'm glad I had that phone call with Jeanette, and really got the skinny and the lowdown, because you're not going to read about it and hear about it anywhere else. I spent probably about 2 hours last night watching the Drink Champs video with Kanye West, which you can find. By the way, it's a long video, and I know, people like to chop things up, but if you have a couple hours on your hand and you want to be highly entertained, I highly recommend this video. And I'll tell you why they took the video. The video is available. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on BitChute. And I'll tell you why they took the video down. When you look at Kanye West videos with Lex Friedman and Piers Morgan and Chris Cuomo, those are adversarial videos. They're adversarial videos. And Kanye West is a projector in human design. So as a projector, he needs to be invited. Not all invitations are the same, but he also needs to be recognized. None of those people, as a projector, projectors need to be recognized. None of them recognize him. Tucker recognized him. He had a funny thing to say about Tucker. But so there's no recognition going on. But this Drink Champs video, that's different, because he was being recognized and he was fucking hilarious. He's funny. He's charismatic. He's able to connect the dots with his thoughts. He's singing, he's rapping, he's making all these interesting kinds of inside references. I mean, it is really worth watching. I mean, that is somebody in their truth, right? In their truth, and just letting it stretch out. Now, at one point, one of the hosts is this guy named Noriega, who's a rapper. And about 3/4 of the way through, he's starting to kind of ratchet on Kanye's commentary on Jewish media in Jewish Power. And Kanye's pushing back, right? He's like, I'm gonna push back a little bit on this. I'm gonna push back. And then this other guy, DJ Ev, he's basically saying, hey, it's free speech. Just let him talk. It's just free speech. And so it was interesting to watch a triangulation. You also have to remember, there's a lot of drinking going on, and there's a lot of blunt smoking going on too, right? So Kanye is feeling very loose, and you can tell that Kanye probably doesn't drink a lot. Maybe he has in the past, but it's like he definitely gets loose. And the reason they took that interview down was because it was, for all intents and purposes, very positive, right? The subject matter or the content may not be positive for some people, right? Maybe for some people it may not be. But the way that it was presented, the spirit of camaraderie, conversation, like that is a weaponized conversation. So I understand why they took it down. Along those lines, Kanye has been MIA. He's not been seen on Twitter in about 10 days now. So nobody's heard from him. The last thing we heard must have been last Friday. We had Danny on the show, and Harley Pasternak crawled under the heat lamp and basically told Ye that he was going to zombify him, and that the next time he would see his kids would be a very different kind of experience. Those were his words, right? And so we haven't heard from him since. And I don't know, I clearly have no inside scoop to Kanye's world. But what has happened since then is that Louis Farrakhan has just posted a 45-minute video in support of Kanye and Kyrie. And boy, I mean, it is vintage classic Farrakhan. So the toothpaste is out of the tube now, right? This thing is not going away. In fact, you even had, of all fucking people, LeBron James come out in support of Kyrie. LeBron, Mr. CCP James. There's a funny picture of LeBron James, and let me see if I can find this thing. It's on Twitter. Give me a sec here. It is the funniest damn picture of LeBron. I gotta find it. It was a live day yesterday on Twitter, I gotta tell you. Let's see. It's LeBron with a bunch of rabbis. It's like the weirdest picture. It's right here. I'm sorry, it's really funny. I'll show it to you. You get to share and chuckle with me. Look at the look on LeBron's face. I mean, this is fun. He's like, what the fuck is going on? He's like holding hands with this rabbi. I mean, if you can see it, it actually looks like it's taking place. God, I want to say it looks like it might even be at Yankee Stadium or something. I could be completely wrong because LeBron is wearing a Yankee shirt. There's a Yankees cap over here, and this rabbi is obviously leading some kind of a prayer. And LeBron is kind of looking at him sideways. He's like, I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm out over my skis here. But even LeBron came out and basically said, hey, look, he apologized. He played with Kyrie. They played together with the Cavaliers. So when you have somebody like LeBron James, who's deep in the pockets of Nike, right? Deep in the pockets of Nike. Phil Knight ended his relationship with Kyrie Irving yesterday. When you have LeBron James come out and actually make a stand like that, that's kind of a game changer. And I'm not here to redeem LeBron James because for the most part, I think he's been just a huge tool in this whole thing. But for him to actually have a tweet and come out in support of Kyrie, that's a big deal. And then Jay Williams, who played point guard at Duke, the same college that Kyrie played at, came out and did a video in support of him as well. Basically, it's like, come on, what you're doing is it's what they call back in the day, buck breaking. Let's see if I can find the Jay Williams video so you guys can watch it. It's not a perfect video, but it's a damn good video. And I'm glad he came out and somebody had to say. Let me see if I can find the Jay Williams video. Beto. Apparently Beto here. Okay, here's the Jay Williams video. It's got 1.9 million views. So let me play the Jay Williams video. The tide is changing here. Once the truth paste comes out of the tube, you can't put it back in. All right, so here's Jay Williams. Used to play for Duke, got into a motorcycle accident. He was a great player. It really pretty much ended his NBA career, went on to become an announcer, commentator. And he's never really showed this before, although when Kyrie decided that he wasn't going to get the jab, Jay Williams actually backed him up a little bit. So this is what he has to say, and he gets into this whole concept of buck breaking. All right, I think we're good to go. Here we go, Jay Williams.
Every day of my life, I approach it with a state of empathy, right? Regardless of what color, what creed, what race you are, I look at people as human beings. I think that's important. But life is always about taking a stand and holding principles. So I want to explain what I feel like my stance is as a Black male in this world, okay? And conversations that I've had with my brothers and sisters in the Black community. And I want you guys to empathize with it and hear me on it. So when I hear what Kyrie Irving has to go through in order to be reinstated, I'm appalled. I'm appalled. And let me give you examples of how I feel like we don't have the same energy and hold other people who have dealt with racial tropes accountable. So when Sarah Silverman does blackface, or when Don Imus says nappy-headed hose, or when Howard Stern calls somebody the N-word in the skit, or when Brett Favre takes money from the state of Mississippi, we don't ask them to get sensitivity training. We don't ask them to donate $500,000. We don't ask them to meet with the Black National Caucus. They apologize And then, you know what? The rest of the world moves on. But what I feel like is happening here, and that's how in the black community, like we've been told that's how the process works, right? Think about that, Bert. That's how the process works. Oh, somebody does a blackface. Oh, it was a misunderstanding. We got it. Okay. You know, is that person really racist? Probably not. Was it ignorant? Probably so. Okay. We understand it. We move forward. We don't like it. We would love to hold them accountable. But society and having a lot of black people in positions of power, we don't have the governability to do that. But what we feel like happens with Kyrie is even after an apology, it's not enough. We feel like there needs to be more. And a lot of people I've spoken to over the last couple of days talk about this thing. Older mentors of mine talk about buck breaking. So we talk about tropes. This is something that we feel like in the black community that happened way back in the day, where if there was a slave that was defiant, right, he got broken in front of everybody in order to show that he was not in a position of power. And that at the end of the day, he had to do what he was told to do because that's what was mandated of him. And there's a bigger situation going on. What's happening with Kyrie Irving? If the Nets don't want him to be there, just say you don't want him to be there. But we should hold everybody accountable, even owners of teams accountable, with things that are happening in other countries, i.e. China and Uyghurs and the Muslim genocide that is occurring, that we hear Enes Kanter talk about. But we don't keep the same energy for everybody. We pick and choose what conversational points we want to make more polarizing. And I might lose my job. I might lose deal opportunities in the future for speaking out about even the platforms that continue to promote and profit a movie that is considered anti-Semitic to billions of people. They don't have to be accountable. Who is accountable? But we're going to put everything on the shoulders of Kyrie Irving, who, even though he said, I cannot be anti-Semitic because if I know where I came from, stating that he's one of the 4 lost tribes. He's saying that blacks and Jews come from the same entity, the same thing. But we don't want to understand nuance. We want to be triggered by words, and we like fire, and we like things that are, going viral on social media, and everybody has some kind of hot take, and we're calling people idiots, and we're calling people names because that's what we do. We just destroy each other. I ain't gonna destroy each other, man. I'm not gonna do that. Is Kyrie Irving anti-Semitic? Hell no. Could he have gone about it maybe a different way? That's what I would have advised him to do. But I'm not gonna let you guys sit out here and make this dude out to be like he is a villain, like he is a bad person. He is looking to explore his heritage. Now, you can crucify me if you want. I don't give a damn anymore. It's time for people to start speaking out with nuance and speaking out on the principles they stand for. That's all I'll say.
I just got to give that guy a hand clap. That was awesome. It was totally awesome. And he's, I'd say, 99.9% right about everything that he said. And this is where we are now, right? The truth paste is out of the tube, and it is not going back. It is not going back. And I think it's an exciting time to be alive. I mean, in as much as these conversations are difficult, in as much as they really trigger people, we're not going to be able to move forward, period, end of story, unless these things are put on the table and resolved or not resolved. And if they're not resolved, then we have to accept that they're irresolvable. And then we make choices and take, different directions or have different opinions based on that. So this is, to me, when we get into this astrologically, we have this, Chiron, which sounds a lot like Kyrie, Chiron in Aries. And Aries is all about, being able to be a trailblazer and a pioneer and to take on adversity and conflict. And as I mentioned before, Kyrie Irving happens to be in Aries, right? So we're in this Chiron and Aries zone where even Jay Williams, a former athlete, Aries rules athletics. And he says, I could be fired. He works for ESPN. He probably has deals with other sponsors and they may not like that. So that's what we're watching Chiron and Aries happen right now, right? And so from the collective point of view, this is a lesson for everybody's life. right? This is a lesson that we all need to integrate. Just like with my friend Jeanette, and when she stood up against the whole election or the miselection process. And that was before Chiron was in Aries. But did she give up? No, she dug in and kept continuing to do what she wanted to do and felt, morally and patriotically justified to do, right? So this is what's happening now. We got a person coming in. Or is that we got a big delivery here. All right. Is that the cocaine?
More hemp products.
More hemp. Oh, more hemp products. Anyway, this is look, in as much as we watch our system collapse, and make no mistake, we're watching systems collapse. We're also watching something else really exciting happen. We're watching people starting to take real risks. We're having conversations that are charged, and the gatekeepers of conversations in media and medicine and politics, they're on their toes now. They're on their toes, and they know that all of a sudden people are starting to drop their fear. And you look at somebody like Kanye West, he's basically losing everything, and he doesn't care. Go watch the Drink Champs video. I highly recommend it. You can find it on YouTube. This guy doesn't care. At the end of the day, if he's got nothing, he's okay with it. Like he said, that's where he came from, right? Trust me, does he like rich things and does he have fine taste? Of course he does. He's a fashion whore, but he's willing to sacrifice all that stuff. So there's a little bit of a preamble, a little bit of an intro, kind of a cold lead. Why don't we bring Chris on here? He's got to open up his shipping list. See, he's actually running a real business here, right? He's got his shipping list. He takes them back. They check it in. This is American Commerce 101 at its finest. Chris, why don't you jump in here?
Yeah, sweet. Hi.
I think we're about the same height, so I think we'll
Sweet.
Look at that. So it's the man right here. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
It's always good to have you. I really appreciate
come a little closer.
I really appreciate all the Chatarians. It's been, I mean, Marcia, it's been so great to have all the feedback, and it just feels really good. We really did this to help people. We were in the marijuana thing and got out of it because we could have still made money, but it wasn't as beneficial as CBD. So I just it's so great having the response that you guys have given us, and we love that, and thank you very much.
So that's an interesting comment. Like, you were into the whole medicinal marijuana world, and that's not Delta 9, that's dealing with like cannabis, right?
Right. And and it's got great applications largely in cancer, but my supposition is it at certain levels you go unconscious to your subtle bodies. And given everything you're talking about today, we need to be more conscious. We need to be more present so we can articulate this. And even just listening to you, I listen to you, and I've heard some of your shows lately, and I just realized what's happening. You're right. What's happening in Texas is not the most benefit. I mean, Texas has these established interests, alcohol, oil,
right.
too. I'm sure oil in hemp, because
apparently pot is still really big.
Oh yeah. Majorly out in West Texas, right? And we had talked to a bunch of people out there. There's water issues, of course, all over, but never mind. The difficulties in Texas are that it's like they tell you that they're trying to promote it. However, they definitely put off a lot of the manufacturing. They've definitely So there, I think the established interests and, even the alcohol industry here wants to be able to license to sell it, and
Right,
everybody's
right.
waiting for the sale of, and even I hear everybody, I can't wait till it's legal. Well, really, it's been my experience that productivity dropped significantly. You can see it, I saw it in the forest, but you can see it in cities when the plumbers are less productive, or the guys working on your construction site are less productive.
Right. And you think it's because of the cannabis use?
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many more people that you just don't see it because you're dulled to it.
Yeah, my experience with cannabis was, I started smoking when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was introduced to it, it was just your basic Mexican ragweed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun. And we would laugh and we'd go and get donuts. And
Occasionally get paraquat.
well, that came later with, so what happened is I remember like those first few times were so fun and so euphoric. I chased that for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really experienced that again. And I kept hoping somewhere inside that I'd have those really fun, euphoric kind of donut moments, right? And they changed the cannabis very quickly. Like Colombians started coming to the country, and that's where all the square grouper stuff started to happen, in Miami or off the coast of Florida. So we would just have, Colombian gold, Colombian red, all this Colombian shit. And the paraquat, I think, was definitely a part of that.
For sure.
And I just remember feeling incredibly demotivated. That usage took away a high degree of productivity for my teenage years.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's my thing is you can get the kids not to use it. It's got uses, and if you want to smoke a joint and go do yoga occasionally, or go, have some epiphany and then go act on it. The problem is you're not going to smoke it and then smoke it the next day, and most people don't act on it.
Right.
Maybe if you're a musician and you have a bunch of people managing your life, but the days of the Rolling Stones and Graham Parsons and all that stuff is not at the same time.
Right. And now, to be fair, because I know there's at least one person listening to this who is a daily user and is amazingly productive.
It's not not everybody.
Some people can do it.
Yeah,
some people can, but I would say by and large,
as a general rule.
There's a general rule. I actually think that legalization for mass commercialization is a big mistake.
I agree. I think it does need to be legalized or decriminalized. I think that the corporate prison system is all drugs, all of them, because look who's bringing them into the country.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'd just like to see that diminish.
Yeah. I've always been, hey, grow 5 plants or 10 plants or whatever, right? And it's yours. You get to cultivate it, you get to use it, but that's not how these things generally work.
No.
So now on the CBD side of things, we're talking about, and I've used this term before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but almost like a homeopathic effect in some ways, and that you experience something, obviously. But there's also the much more subtle kind of interaction that goes on with CBD.
Totally. Yeah, that and it's the balance. I just think it's electrical. Like, we need a certain amount of voltage so they do know that voltage, this is an electrical thing. It's not biochemical. And the healthy cells run at like 40 to 45 milliamps. You get too high a voltage, that's acute.
Right.
You get low voltage, all chronic disease is low voltage, cancer, arthritis, those are low voltage conditions. And CBD, on my understanding of how it kind of works, is if it's neuroprotectant, you're protecting, or I think it's actually neuroregenerative in certain quantities, that you can restore that voltage, which means you're going to restore the awareness, right? Because the cells will run at proper levels. You'll produce the hormones that are used to perceive reality.
Right. Okay. So clearly you're not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor. This is not medical
advice.
Not
medical advice or anything. Right. But let's just say, for the sake of supposition, that somebody has come to you with a certain condition. Let's say something like MS or
Parkinson's, MS,
Parkinson.
all those, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you've run across that.
Sure. Oh,
right?
yeah.
And what have you seen?
Well, I have seen people, so typically by the time you get to that, those are in the acute, those are in the chronic stage. Parkinson's, MS, all these, I had met this doctor the other day who came by one of our shows that we were doing and was telling me that they're studying what's the proper dosage of, she was talking about CBG because we've recently been exploring that pretty heavily.
What's the difference between the two?
Okay, so these guys in Oregon, so they're different cannabinoids, and there's somewhere around 29 cannabinoids, depending on, or that they're aware of right now, plus or minus a few, and maybe 8 to 11 forms of THC, and up to 16 or so plus forms of a different CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, and they're all various, but CBG is the mother cannabinoid in the sense that the plant will make CBG first.
I see.
And so then the plant begins to break that down over time. And then, so CBG goes into CBD, then it begins to break it down into the other minor cannabinoids. And at the very end, it will convert into THC.
Interesting.
And what it converts is into THCA, the acidic form,
Great.
and then time, light, heat will change THCA into the various forms, different forms of THC. So the delta 8 that people are doing, there's a fraction of the amount of delta 8 even in marijuana relative to taking a 20 milligram gummy.
Right.
So yeah.
So you and I've talked about delta 8 and how delta 8 is actually not all that great for you.
That's my opinion, is that you don't really, it's an isomerized product. They get away with it because instead of taking, there'd be several different ways to make it. You could take cannabis, high THC cannabis, can extract all the THC from it, then you could break that down using mass spectrometers, or you could, they have this equipment that you could filter off each one. Because you would never get that much delta 8, they just take CBD and they use a process isomerization, which you add certain chemicals to it, and then you can convert CBD into different forms of THC, delta 9, delta 8. You can convert it into THCO. There's a bunch of different things that you can convert it into, but it's a chemicalized process, and then they remove the chemicals.
So the chemicalized process is the thing that,
and some people tell you that it's identical, but my understanding and my experience with it is you can tell there's just something different.
even if they remove it, it's got to be some kind of
yeah, it's just within threshold, and it's usually 10 parts per million. But if you do another test, you can usually find the residual chemicals, or if you get a dry taste from the cannabis that you're using, that may be residual hexane or pentane left over from the extraction.
So if you're looking to chase a THC high, right?
Yeah.
Just go to THC and maybe skip delta 8. I mean,
right, totally.
And the thing about delta 8,
it's cheap.
and it's almost like the crack of THC, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the K2 that was the K2 years ago, in the 90s, or when was that? And years ago, they were spice, or everyone was using these alternative marijuana forms.
Right.
And that's what the delta 8, the THCO, all these other forms, they exist in the product in a natural form, but in such quantities. I mean, I don't know that, they all bind to different receptors. And so all of a sudden you've stuck all this delta 8 into these receptors, and it's probably a lot more than
Right.
we've gotten in the past couple thousand years.
Right. So it's introducing a whole new sort of kind of what
effect.
And yeah, like what's not a neuropeptide, because that's, you produce that naturally. So the receptors themselves are they novel receptors? Do they have to create themselves?
Well, I mean, what we do, there is some research to indicate that the more CBD you take, the more receptors you make. I also think that because CBD is an antioxidant by patent, that US patent said that it's a neuroprotectant, a cardiac protectant, and an antioxidant.
Right.
That it's probably helping to clean up your system, which is why all our stuff has that pretty intense taste.
Yeah.
My feeling is that those are the terpenes, and they are probably the major free radical scavengers. They work in conjunction, and the synergy or the entourage effect, if you will, is what like really gives it the traction. But those will, they basically just peel back your mind,
Right.
so that you can start to produce the hormones so that we perceive reality.
Right. So we've talked about this before, and the idea is to commit to it long enough so that this process can take place.
Right. And so people who have done a lot of pharma tend to take a little bit longer to get to different levels.
Right.
It's about at 10 days is about the inflammation level. And then it takes about 45 days at a specific dosage, which is somewhere between 45 and 70 milligrams, depending on your body weight. It's very much weight dependent.
Right.
You'll get different effects, and will see like your blood sugar level will come down, which means sugar kind of tastes sweet. People drink less alcohol. Sometimes has, so the first two things I'd say that it's good for is seizures and prediabetes. So it'll lower your A1C or blood sugar levels. Then after that,
And this is proven. This is a proven.
there's a lot of research. I don't know what they say proven. Anecdotally, I've definitely heard it.
But there's
from,
research on it.
yeah, there's definitely
Okay.
research on it. And then blood pressure doesn't happen in everyone, but a lot of people can experience a blood pressure drop. I had 15 points. And then blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol can come down too.
Right.
And there's a lot of other stuff that comes online, because if it's electrical, or if you're chronically inflamed and all of a sudden you have less inflammation, and that means you can run better current through your body, then you're starting to heal yourself, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
that's a process. People are thinking, oh, they just take a pill. Well, most of those pills are just relieving the symptoms.
Right.
You want to get the homeostasis back into the body. And also tell people, if you're taking a lot of CBD, take some minerals, find some good quality carbon-based minerals to take.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So what's the CBD community like? I mean, obviously, there's tons of people that have CBD businesses and grows, and is it pretty friendly? Is it competitive? What's it like?
We try to be pretty friendly. It's not competitive on our level. Some people, I think, view it that way. We don't really, because I had a friend grow 500 acres, or he probably was growing 200 acres in Oregon, and they plowed it under for Nestle. They didn't even take it 2 years ago. So I don't know what's happening with it lately, but my understanding is there's a lot of these larger companies into the supply chain, and they're biding their time trying to figure it out.
So is Nestle there for cannabis? Is that what they're there for?
For hemp.
They're there for hemp.
Yeah.
Nestle's there for hemp.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Well, that's cool. Well, you were pretty successful at our event. You were there for
Yeah, it
one
was
day.
fantastic. That's why I said my response from your community is unbelievable. And the feedback is so, it's just been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really good.
Yeah.
So the deal here is if you spend $100.
Yeah, we do
Chris's
another
product.
special. Today's 11/11. We'll give you 11% off. We can't adjust the website, but if you come in and you say 15 minutes, we'll knock another 11% off anything you buy.
How about that? If you say 15 minutes, when you buy some product here through the website.
Yep.
Chris will take 11% off your order.
And we just came out with, so we've got in the new gummies, just a terpene advisory warning on the 5 milligram or 100 milligram, 5 milligram gummies. They are intense. So they're not
intense.
for the faint of heart, and but they're quite good.
You could half them. You could like half one and just use like a half, right?
Right, but I'm saying the flavor is
Oh,
intense.
the flavor is spicy.
Yes, and those are, you're taking 100 milligrams of CBD of what would be equivalent to a combination of 33 and 17
Right,
is how I made it.
right.
And so those were pretty high terpene stuff. And, you know, we lose a little bit of the terpenes anytime you heat something or process it. And since the gummies, you have to heat the sugar mixture, but they did a pretty good job, and they're good.
Very effective. I
Yeah.
got a couple of jars at home, and
Yeah.
they've been good, man. They've been really good.
Very nice.
All right, so there you go. You can get 11% off today, just for today. Since it's 11/11, just put 15 minutes in your little order form.
Yeah, anyway, or if we see you, we'll give it to you anyway.
There you go. All right, and you're welcome to come down here.
Yeah.
We do have a Chatarian here, a couple of Chatarians hanging out. Anything else you want to say here?
No,
today?
thanks so much for coming today. Thank you, everybody, Chatarians, for playing with us.
Yes,
We appreciate it.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
thanks.
Good to see you. All right, so there you go. Don't hesitate. Jump on it, get that 11% discount. You can also go to True Hemp Science /ref/23, put in the 15 minutes, type in there, hey, 15 minutes, you get 11% discount as well. So it's a good day to be here and get some of this really kick-ass CBD. Linda, why don't you come on over here? We're gonna bring Linda on. That is a stylish leather jacket.
Oh, thank you.
So Linda heard my yacht call back in the summer, and she said, "Hey, Robert, we have a boat. How'd you like to come out on the boat with us and sail on Lake Austin?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's do that." So
Yeah.
we spent a day with you and your husband.
Oh.
It was great fun. We had we had a really
Good,
good
I'm
time.
glad you had fun. Well, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were at the last event last year, right?
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's
I've been to two.
and that's when I first officially met you.
Right.
And that kind of changed your life, right? You met a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
You met Benito, and so
Yeah.
you had all these new connections.
Yeah.
And then you were here again this last. So what was your experience like between these two events?
Well, I made new friends.
Yeah.
I've been kind of in this whole weird world for 40 years.
You've been in
So
it.
yeah, I've been doing weird stuff for 40 years.
Yeah.
So I think I had taken astrology classes before and different things like that, but you're a much better teacher. And, I read all the Seth books and,
We were talking about Barbara Marciniak too.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I read Bringers of the Dawn, and
That's an important book.
oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's an important book.
Yeah.
I definitely, the Seth books were really important too, but
Very interesting stuff.
But then a friend of mine that I was working with gave me, didn't even know what that book was. It like fell off the shelf and it was like screaming my name. She had no idea what it was, and she brought it and gave it to me. And I read that, and it's like every light went off, and that was 30 years ago.
Right.
And so every light and bell went off. It's like it spoke to me.
Yeah.
And then I attended quite a few of Barbara Marciniak things, but I did.
Where did you see her? North Carolina?
No. Well, we were living in Denver and here
Right.
too. We lived here, and I saw her the same day I saw David Icke. So I had David Icke all to myself. Well, there were like maybe 4 or 5 of us in the room.
This is in Colorado?
No, this was in Austin.
Oh, in Austin.
Yeah, I moved around a lot.
Right, yeah.
I'm kind of a gypsy, but
Right.
anyway, it was 30 years ago. Right now, I went to the Austin Whole Life thing.
Right, yeah.
And both Barbara and David were there. And Barbara, I already knew who she was.
She was
And
big star.
right, yeah, I'd already, I think, had been to something of hers before.
Mhm.
And but anyway, I sat in David's, and I wished I would have known how big he really was at that time.
Right.
But there were like maybe 4 or 5 of us in the room, and I had him, pretty much to myself for like, 4 hours.
Yeah.
And now he fills stadiums, and
If he can get out of his home.
Well,
now,
right, no, he can't even get out of his home because
he's been banned from the
and he's
EU.
been declared a terrorist, which is
This is ridiculous. It's
insane.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So anyway, so all this stuff I learned what is coming to fruition now, and that people are just starting to learn about. I learned about 30 years ago. So
Isn't it kind of funny when
yeah,
all of a sudden, people get that first taste of the red pill
yeah,
and they start to get the true thing,
yeah.
and like everything starts to happen, and you're like, I was here 30 years ago. God bless you, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you get to see this
Right.
like awakening happening.
Oh, yeah. Well, back then there weren't very few of us. It was hard to find. I mean, all I could do was buy books. I mean,
Right.
I've got like 600 books. I mean,
Yeah, that's what, and even finding the books
right.
was not easy.
No,
You
it wasn't.
had to really search
yeah.
around and figure out who had something interesting.
Oh,
to say.
yeah. So every year it's more and more, and more and more people wake up. But
Yeah.
So back to what you're saying as far as changing. I mean, I when I met everybody I just felt like I've been to a lot of weird, things. I'm not that astrology is weird. Do you know what I'm saying? I've been to all kinds of, seminars, weekend things.
Right.
And I usually just go and I sit, by myself, and I take my notes because I'm a little Sagittarian and
Right.
Virgo and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So I take all my notes and then I leave
Yeah.
and I don't interact. But when I sat down and I sat with Dorothy and Rod,
Yeah.
and immediately we just started talking and just talk. And then,
And then Guy last year.
your guy has almost the same birthday.
That's
as
right.
I do. So
Yeah.
that was interesting to talk to, because we talked a whole bunch, and, we could finish each other's sentences because we're kind of like little twins.
Right.
And then of course, Benito, I heard you had him up and he talked.
Right.
And he was talking about was it salvia or whatever?
Salvia.
Yeah, okay. And so I was listening to that and his experiences. So I followed him around like a puppy dog the rest of the time. So he's now my bestie. Hi, Benito. Anyway, and then the other thing too was when everybody was introducing themselves, Steve Mercer, he said, "Well, I'm producer Steve," and I went, "Oh," because I had been listening to Freeman for
Right.
years, and I'd heard that, producer Steve, and I went, "Oh my God," but it was kind of like I don't know if I knew, I don't know. Anyway, so I am now the official president of Producer Steve Fan Club.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
so it's just kind of, so I knew they've evolved into good friends, and Amy and and
Right.
Donna, and those are
Right.
a lot of the people that.
So that was the first
Yeah.
year you really connected in with your pod.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On the first year.
Well, right. Well, and Rod was the commander.
Rod was the head of the pod.
And that was Benito and Guy and I were his little.
Right. And so this last year was different. We had way more people.
Yeah.
It was a different mix of people too.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, it was good.
how would you do? I mean, I think the first year was maybe more meeting for you personally.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I made some definitely long lasting friends. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And it was great to meet you. I felt like I already knew you because I listened to you every day and my headphones and
Right.
yeah.
So
anyway.
but the energy was different, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The second time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely different.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was
though.
really good.
Yeah.
I thought it
Yeah.
was good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. It's always good.
Yeah.
So.
So when are you guys gonna get your seafaring boat? So I can take my yachting experience to the next level with
Yeah,
you?
well, it's hopefully around a year and a half or so, when we turn 66, so about another year and a half,
Right.
or, yeah, well, year and a half.
So we might get
Well, then,
some water on the lake today.
right, well, yeah, no, it's gotta rain for days and days for that, but yeah, no, I love Lake Travis, and we spend every weekend out there 6 months out of the year. I go paddle boarding, and it's kind of my form of meditation. I go out there and I talk to the fish and the turtles and the ducks, and
We were feeding turtles.
yes,
Right,
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's all really good, and I connect. I love nature, and so it's a good way to connect. So it's been we've been doing that for almost 15 years
Right.
on that. But no, the next level is to get a bigger boat and to go to the Caribbean.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that day's coming. It's coming.
That's-
Well, I kind of, it's kind of, how do you really plan right now for anything? Because I know the systems have to come down so that new systems can come up. And I've known this is coming for a long time. So, I plan cautiously. I don't.
Well, that's kind of
Yeah.
that's part of your world. I mean, you used to work for the IRS, right?
Oh, yeah, you had to say that. didn't
I'm
you?
sorry.
Yeah. Don't hold that.
Don't hold it against her.
No, I only went and worked there for the health insurance, so.
But
anyway.
I mean, that's a
And I don't
world,
work there any,
but that's a world even it's
Yeah.
probably massively disorganized.
oh, you have no idea. You have no idea.
So how do you make a plan in that world, right?
Yeah. No, I've seen how our government operates.
So you're probably okay with making a plan in a place that's completely disorganized, which
Oh, yeah.
this sort of feels like. in
Yeah,
the
oh,
world
yeah,
in
yeah.
general.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I feel like I've been waiting for this moment in time for a long time.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, keep your long distance radio tuned. Cause I might say, hey, I'm at this port. Come-
Oh, no, absolutely.
Come get me,
Yeah,
Jonesboro.
absolutely. You guys
I
are.
don't know if
always
Joan's ready to, I
welcome.
don't know if Joan is ready to go see yacht worthy. We'll have to take
Yeah.
Joan's.
Oh, yeah.
temperature.
No, it'd be fun. We'll go down and cruise the Bahamas and
So,
it'll be fun.
well, glad you're here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't miss it.
And by the way, she bought my astrology course.
Yes. Benito, I finally did that.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna make sure that you are. able
Oh,
to-
yeah, you need to help me. I'm technically challenged, so you need to get me up and running. So,
We'll make sure
yeah.
we do that by the time
Yeah.
we leave.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Linda.
Okay, well, thank you.
Appreciate you coming
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Thank
alright.
you. Bye, everybody.
So it's always great to have people that are, they're here, like you don't always see them. Right? You don't always see them. Maybe their names show up every now and then, but it's always great to meet them in the flesh. And it's even better when you get to sail with them and hang out. Barbara Marciniak, I remember getting Bringers of the Dawn, and that book changed my life.
Oh, yeah.
Really changed my life. And I went to go see her in San Francisco, of all places, at the Palace of Fine Arts, which we've often cited as this, Tartarian structure, right? And I don't know what your experience was like with her, but I remember the room being incredibly cold.
She is cold.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like the temperature of the room was cold.
Yeah, but I find her to be cold.
Yeah, so maybe
Yeah.
her and the temperature are,
Yeah,
it was
not friendly.
not warm and fuzzy at
No,
all.
not out.
Yeah, so there was that and the fact that we were all kind of freezing our ass off. But I think, what was her second book? Was it Earth or?
Yeah, Earth, the Living Library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't connect with that as much.
Didn't either, just Bringers of the Dawn.
Bringers of the Dawn that'll change your life.
Yeah.
And some of her, I started to kind of go back to her, I think around 2017 or so. She was doing a lot of, I won't call them live streams, but talks, and people were recording them.
Mhm.
Some of them were pretty good. So I think there's
Yeah.
probably still some value there. And David Icke, I remember the first time I heard David Icke. I think it might have been around 1997 on Coast to Coast. And I didn't know who he was. I'm like, this is my dude, right?
Yeah.
Like he gets it. Everything that I've been putting together in my head, he's on Art Bell and he's talking about it. So, and David's kind of controversial. Some people, think that he's kind of a reptilian shapeshifter. In this, who cares, right? At this point, things are going to get weird, and you're probably going to have allies that you didn't think you'd have allies with before. Today I'm listening to Louis Farrakhan. And I'm hearing what he has to say about Kyrie and Kanye. And it's not that I'm anti-Louis Farrakhan, because he said some very interesting thoughts on particular subjects, right? But now all of a sudden, there are people that may be way more open to Louis Farrakhan because they're seeing what's happening with Kyrie and Kanye, and how the truth paste is out of the tube now. And so now we have these really unusual allies that we're forming with now, and that they may not fit the description of who we think we should be hanging out with or supporting or listening to. And I think a lot of that has to do with this Aquarian energy that is starting to come in. Here, I'll show you a tweet that I have on my Twitter page. It's actually pinned to my Twitter page. And it's something that, I really believe in. And I found this image of these soldiers from Vietnam. And I think it's a really great picture. And essentially the tweet says, in the age of Aquarius, the marketeers of a new civil war, black versus white, are actually instigating the opposite. I see black and white coming together in a recalibration of values and a clearer understanding about the pushers of polarity. And this is where we are now, right? This is where we have this ability to come together and synergize with very disparate parts of the whole. And I think it's a really exciting time. So you're going to find that you're going to be connecting with people that may be outside your comfort zone. And maybe for them, you're outside their comfort zone as well. And I'm okay with that. And I've always been really okay with that. For me, it's been super frustrating that other people just have not been okay with that. And, my experience in Fredericksburg, running for city council and being accused of being a Satanist and a cult leader, it's like, well, we have the same skin in the game, right? You and I want the same thing, right? Literally, we want less government. We want to make sure that our rights are being observed and our rights are being honored and respected, meaning we're not going to wear a fucking mask and we're going to stand down against any of these vaccinations or shots that we believe in our own lives are not in our best interest, right? These are shared common values. There is no disputing those things. We may have had some differing opinions about, where things are going with land and land use, but the things that really matter, the things that really count, those were the values that we shared, right? And yet, because I may have had a different ideology or a different kind of occupation or vocation, it's like, no, you're not, you don't fit the mold. You're literally of the devil, right? But we're gonna have to put a lot of that stuff aside, because if we're gonna get together, really get together, we're gonna have to. And I never had a problem with these people being Christians. If they wanted to start a meeting in prayer, I was okay with that, right? Like I had no problem with that. I have no problem with Christianity. So it wasn't coming from me. It was more like, we're not ready to accept you. But that we're moving way out of that comfort zone now. So if we're gonna have any kind of cohesion, this is where we're going, right? And these catalytic events with Kyrie and Kanye, they're starting to get people to wake up and understand that we're being played against each other. And when that changes, when that dynamic, and it's changing, it is shifting. I can tell you that right now, it's shifting. And when we get to this point where it feels like the so-called architects of this reality are looking like they're losing control, that's when things get very interesting, because a couple things happen, right? Number one, you see more, right? It just comes out more. It's more blatant. More mistakes are made, like in order to assert a certain position, right? The unfortunate sort of cliched response, or like what happened with Kyrie Irving. It's so cliched, right? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go meet with Jewish elders. You're going to go meet with sensitivity training. You're going to meet with, these people from this community, you're going to take $500,000 of your money and you're going to give it to these anti-hate causes, right? The ADL didn't want the blood money, but they would send it out to some other groups, right? So this is what was being asked of him, and people are looking like, wow, this is really onerous. This is triggering, it's catalyzing this whole experience. And so what happens when people lose control is they want to assert more control and more control. And when that happens, the cat is just out of the bag. And it's like, here we go. This is what we're talking about. And it's actually a good thing. It's a positive thing, because we might be able to actually have some real conversations and real dialogues around all of this. So don't, you may have different allies. They may look different. They may have different points of view, right? But if the core values are the same, and the core values being truth, liberation, freedom, respect, and a sacred relationship with it, with one another, they're your family. These people are your family. And that's the age of Aquarius. So get ready, get ready for interesting allies and strange bedfellows. All right, why don't we bring on Dr. Joan here? Why don't you come on over here, Dr. Joan? All right, so this is the lovely and talented Dr. Joan S., also known as Witchy Poo. How are you doing? Isn't she beautiful? Look how beautiful she is.
He is.
I can't tell you how many times I'm hanging out with her and people will say, she looks like a movie star. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? Which one? No, really, she looks like they're looking at me to tell them what movie star she is. That happened. I can't tell you how many times that. And by the way, I'm really okay with it, right? I'm happy with her beauty outshining my natural, rugged, handsome nature. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. So
Friday.
it is Friday. It's your day off, right? Yeah. So a lot of people, I've had you on before. We've talked about, your dentistry work, right? And your holistic dentistry work. And, you had your own kind of epiphany and moment in time where you realized that the practice that you were involved in was not as ethical and healthy as it could be. And so you really did a major, not a complete 180, but you did about a 90-degree turn in terms of how you did things, including mercury removal, which not everybody does. I never really asked you about like the training and what went into being able to look at these mercury amalgam fillings and this is going to be a big part of what I do. So what was that like? Did you have to go through a bunch of training for that?
Actually, now there's training.
Right.
Back when I did it 25
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
we kind of had created our own type of thing. It just evolved. Now I actually help certify from the younger.
So you were a trailblazer when it came to this whole.
There were some ahead of me, and they all got their license taken away, and but yeah, I was right after them.
Right.
Thank God I haven't had my license taken.
So there were actually biological dentists that kind of died for your sins.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You just lost a mentor, didn't you?
Yes. And that's Dawn's uncle also.
Dawn. So Dawn and Chad, his name is Bill, right?
Bill Blaros.
So tell people about Bill and how important his work was.
He was one of those trailblazers, and he was great. He was just the nicest, sweetest guy. He was always helping everyone else. He was doing charity work. He was big in his church.
Right.
It's just, just a great guy. Couldn't be any better.
And he was a traditional dentist, and then he saw the light, right?
Yes, I think he was doing it maybe a few years before I got in.
Right. Yeah. And so did you learn from him and pick things up from him?
Some I would, because at first you're kind of shy, so you don't want to act stupid. You'd ask questions. Now we have home mentoring programs, which is nice. So we just.
So this thing has really grown
Yeah.
since you started it.
This is before the internet, so.
When did you make the switch to go into the biological holistic world?
It was around kind of the same time there was an ophthalmologist in town that was doing chelation therapy.
Uh-huh.
It was unheard of. And FDA kept breaking down his doors and raiding his office, and he took me to lunch and he gave me this big poster. I saw it at the office. It's all its relationship for all the organs in the teeth, how they go together.
Oh, right.
And I thought, this is so cool.
Right.
And then at the bottom, it had the Academy of Biological Dentistry and a phone number. So I called it and they said, oh, we have a conference in a couple weeks. You want to go? I'm like, yeah. So they just started from there. And he was asking me because he needed somebody to take the mercury fillings out safely.
Right.
So that's why he took
And
me to lunch.
he was an ophthalmologist.
Mhm.
So he sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, he ended up just packing up and leaving town. They harassed him so much, sadly.
Really?
Yeah.
So now if you were wanting to study dentistry and you wanted to study holistic or biological dentistry, could you just go down that path, or do you have to go normal and then fork off and do it?
Well, they're not going to teach in school.
They're not. They're
No,
just, yeah.
No. So you want to go to one that, like Academy of Biological Dentistry and Medicine. I mean, that's where I work with. I'm past president.
Right.
And
So
we have
that-
programs and certifications for it.
So then you get your degree in dentistry,
Yeah.
doctor
Yeah,
dentistry,
you have to have your license.
and then you get this other
Mhm.
body of knowledge and
Yeah,
information.
and it's a lot of people end up going that route because they get sick from the mercury. So
Right.
it's kind of a default.
Right. So you also got into the whole fluoride thing,
Yes.
right? And
Helped you with the fluoride.
you did help with the fluoride. That was a fun time, in a lot of ways. So we did, okay. So in order, okay, we did this thing together. And this is with Jeanette and a bunch of other people. And we thought it would be a good idea because we had this fluoride campaign, anti-fluoride campaign. And we decided that we would enter, what was it, was the 4th of July or what parade?
Oh,
was it?
the float. We did the
Yeah,
float.
what parade was that? It was either Memorial Day or 4th of July.
No, it was in October, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It was the anniversary of Fredericksburg or something?
No, it was it Veterans Day?
I don't know.
Anyway, it was this parade. And so we thought it would be a good idea to enter this parade and
Mhm.
come up with this float, right? So I had this old truck and we had a trailer and then
A work trailer.
so we were gonna do this thing with like waves of water on this trailer, and then we had cardboard cut out and painted the cardboard and everything, and we had like
Dolphin balloons.
helium dolphin balloons and bubble machines and all kinds of shit, right? And
Oh, the big drop, the big water drop.
and I had right, and then Pat Patrick was he was this guy helping us. He was in this giant water, he was like a drip, like that was his costume, and he was waving to the kids, and the kids loved him. And then so you and I,
Bubbles.
we have bubbles, and then we were playing Crystal Blue Persuasion by Tommy James and the Shondells over and over again on the sound system. Anyway, we're up late and we're trying to get these fucking balloons to like contour to the waves on these pieces of cardboard. And at a certain point, I'm just like, screw this. And then we went to Walmart and we just redid the whole thing, like in the middle of the night. And we wound up painting this whole thing. We managed to get it together. And we actually won 3rd place. They came up to us and they like handed me something in the truck. I thought I was getting a ticket or something. Like, what's this? They're like, well, you just won 3rd place. And like, and so we won 3rd place in the float, but the election itself, that was rough. I mean,
dirty.
it was dirty, because those dentists in that
Ooh,
town.
They hate me.
Well, I mean, think about this for a second, right? You're back there and they're like in your mouth. Oh, you hear about fluoride, and they're saying fluoride is really bad for you. Oh, good for you. You need fluoride. Really? Should I vote? You make sure you vote for having fluoride. I mean, that's what they would do. They would get people. I mean, think about this, right? You go to the dentist,
I did the opposite.
well, it's traumatic at the dentist. It's traumatic for a lot of people, right?
CBD.
And then what are they doing? They're talking to them about the fucking election. It's like trauma programming. I mean, I swear to God, that's what happened.
Yeah,
That's what happened. Okay, I'll vote for it, right?
well,
So, so then the dentist would put in these like, 1,500, 2,000 word op-eds in the newspaper because the newspaper was not on our side at all. So then Joan wrote her.
they wouldn't let me do a letter to the
So,
editor.
so Joan wrote an op-ed and they would not print it because, oh, she's from Austin, right? She's not a local dentist. So we had to buy an entire page,
Did a
full page ad that was essentially everything that she said, right? So that was a really interesting time. And, I have to say, you've been, absolutely gracious and supportive, like you were really supportive with Jeanette on the fluoride piece. And you were really supportive with her, her cause to get enough money together to hire the lawyer to take on.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, I just want to commend you on that. You're extremely supportive. And I gotta say, best dentist I've ever been to. Took care of my mercury. And I became a good patient, didn't I?
Yes,
The first time I wasn't so good.
no.
No. I admit to that. I admit to that. But the second time I was better, right?
Yeah,
And by the time I was done, I was like a model patient, wasn't I? Just lie.
Yeah.
It's okay, just lie.
yes.
Yeah, okay. So if you're really, now this is a sales pitch now. If you want your fluoride removed, right, not your fluoride, your mercury removed by a beautiful, talented, sexy dentist, just come to Austin. You can come to Austin, you can hang out with Chris, you can load up on some CBD, then you can go see Joan, get your mercury amalgam removed, right? You can hang out in Austin and trip into other dimensions with Emily. She'll take you on the extra dimensional Austin City tour, right? You can plan a whole vacation around this. And then if you feel like, strong enough, you come out to the hill country and then hang out there. See, there's all these, kind of health vacation opportunities for you right here in Austin,
There you go.
right? And you do have people that come from all over.
Yeah, I do.
Who was the furthest that's come to see you?
India.
Somebody from India came to get their metal taken out. Wow, that's a long ways. How did they find out about you?
I think relatives.
Relatives. Interesting. All right. Well, Joan, is there anything else you want to share with the people today besides your beauty, countenance, and grace?
Well, I think the whole fluoride thing is what we used to call in school the good old boys. You know what I mean?
The good old boys.
Yeah.
Well, who are the good old boys?
They're in that little, by that little.
Oh,
I
are you talking about Freemasons?
think that's part of it.
Yeah, the fluoride. So we're getting fluoride from China now. We're not even getting fucking good old American fluoride. We're getting Chinese fluoride now.
Wow.
Yeah, who knows what the hell is in that? Anyway, if you can avoid it at all costs. And by the way, not all of these water
Exactly,
filters are
yeah.
the same.
The British don't get fluoride out.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a special fluoride.
Well, even now I'm reading even like the Berkeys are starting to come under scrutiny.
Really, the Berkey should have a separate fluoride filter on it. You can't just use the plain Berkey.
I mean, really, if you can do it, you want to get the under the sink model, right? That's what I've heard.
They're still, they say 99%, but that's better than.
You
None of them don't claim it.
you don't want fluoride. I grew up, and so did you, because for a long time, San Antonio did not have fluoridated
My
water.
grandma fought it back when. when
How many times did they have to have an election in San Antonio to fluoridate? At least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I grew up in San Jose. We didn't have fluoridated water. So, maybe that's one of the reasons why you're so beautiful and talented, because of the non-fluoridated water. What do you think?
Who knows?
By the
Why do
way,
you get fluoride pills?
she was Miss Smile San Antonio, 1978. Is that right?
79.
So I always get the year wrong. 79. Miss, because that's when you were a senior in high school, right?
Yeah, you were your.
Yeah, I graduated. So you would have been, I actually should have been in your class, actually.
No, you're September. Back
Yeah,
then,
no, I
it
was
said
yo-
September.
I was young for my class, though.
Yeah,
I should have been in your class. That's what I think.
good thing we weren't in the same class.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have gone to a Catholic school.
I didn't go to Catholic school,
Oh,
only 1 year,
only 1 year, yeah.
freshman year.
No, I was a terror in classrooms. Teachers would love me and they would hate me simultaneously. They loved me because I was Mr. Class Participation. They loved that shit. But then I would participate when I shouldn't be participating, and they didn't love that very much. So yeah. Well, Joan, it's been great spending some time here. Looks like we have a customer. We're doing a live stream.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
So, well, thanks for being here, baby. All right. So we're about to watch a deal go down. We're about to watch a CBD deal go down. The connection's about to be made. Where are you from?
California.
Oh, really? Do you
Trying to
live,
navigate the snow weed.
do you live here now?
I do.
How long have you been here?
I've been here for 3 months.
Wow. Right. Where did you come from in
Los
California?
Angeles.
LA.
Yeah, I'm like the enemy. Everybody's giving me so much like anti-California. since I
Really?
came here, which has been quite surprising. Yeah.
And even in Austin?
We can say to the Californians, bless their heart.
I got a lot of it. It's like the first thing you've ever gone to, where, like I'm getting crap for being from another place. It's weird.
So, yeah, unfortunately, there have been some Californians that have kind of soiled the bed a little bit.
I mean, hopefully not everyone's treating you, but I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
But yeah, it's interesting, like, I've just never lived in a place.
Businesses or people on a personal level, like.
We're having a breakdown of
Wait,
our
what do you mean?
personal experience.
When you're out.
Oh, when I say I'm from California,
Yeah.
like the personal like attack.
Really, personal?
Yeah.
So I'm from California.
Okay, I think we talked about this before. You're from Northern California, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did we talk about that? Were you here? You were here.
I was here like, yeah, I was here like 2 months ago.
I think I might have been here with you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not a coincidence now, right? It's 2 times.
But yeah, I don't know, it's weird, but I'm like trying to stay open-minded, but I don't like all like it's like I'm not where I'm from. I'm from the East Coast originally, like.
Right.
It's strange, it's silly.
What matters? You're here now.
Right, for sure. I mean,
Yeah, and you're supporting local business.
so what is why do you guys think?
Yeah, I remember.
Because it's fun.
Okay, so they're having a business deal over here. What is it? It's 211? She's talking about the 11% deal. Not that.
You didn't know about it.
Oh, she doesn't know about the 11% deal?
Oh,
Well, no, I was just curious of why, how hemp got legalized here.
Oh,
Was it just like,
it's,
were they like, okay, we'll do hemp, but not anything
it was the
else?
good old boys. Yeah,
yeah, I think Chris probably knows more about that.
right.
All right, let me focus on you guys here. Why don't we call it a wrap? We'll call it a wrap for the day.
Right.
So if you want to get some of the CBD, just go online, grab what you want, put in 15 minutes, you'll get 11% off.
Right.
And if you spend $100, you'll get some more goodies thrown in there. And the gummies are the bomb. They're so good. So good. All right, so I'm gonna get out of here. I'll see you guys on Sunday night. We got a lot of charts to talk about. It's gonna be good. We're gonna have a good Sunday night. All right, use your head and order so much real. Your heart said what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. We got Linda over here. We got Joan. We got Marsh behind the counter. We got our friend from California who just scored her CBD. And I'll be here probably.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have yourself a great Friday. And see you on Sunday night. Take care. Bye for now.
Unless you have a pretty